think if you'd have given Arsenal fans a choice in the summer of Lacazette and Aubamayeng, they would have, most of them would have plumped for Aubamayeng.
Well, because he's a better striker.
Well, the problem is they've got Lacazette. He's been there 12 months.
They're panicking.
But Arsenal, by the way, Arsenal are not struggling because of Lacazette.
No, there's many areas that they need to...
He's way down the list.
But having someone like Aubamayeng come in, would that not just create a spark amongst the squad to get things going a little bit, get a little bit of excitement around the stadium as well, which is so
yes, it may. Okay, it may. But I'll tell you what's not going to help when you sit Lacazette on his backside when you're bringing Aubamayeng in for him.
Arsenal are a bit...
The positive thing's getting a negative thrown at it straight away, which is why I ended up saying, OK, so you're looking at Mkhitaryan. It's been horrible the last 18 months.
Arsenal are a bit like Chelsea at the moment, and we're going to talk about them later on. Is that I really don't know what direction they're going. I don't know which. It's like the red arrows flying everywhere. I mean, I just don't know. It's like, right, Sanchez is going. Ozil might be staying, so we might be getting Mkhitaryan in, and like, we brought that Lacazette in the summer, but Aubameyang's available because Dortmund are not happy. They're looking for a fee from him. These two London clubs at the moment just look as if they're lacking direction. I mean, we've got one manager that's stubborn and wants to stay. We've got another manager in Chelsea that clearly wants to go. And meanwhile, United are splashing the cash, Liverpool are splashing the cash, City are splashing the cash, and they're all pretty sure what way they're trying to go. But Arsenal, along with Chelsea, and we're talking about Arsenal at the moment, it's almost like fighting fires every transfer window to try and appease the fans. See, Wenger said, we told you we'd spend some of that money we've got. We told you we'd match the big boys. That's what it seems like. But if they do get Mkhitaryan and Aubamayeng in, then I think that softens the blow somewhat if Sanchez's deal goes through to Man United.
Welcome into Extra Time. Should we get to your tweets? You up to much this weekend, Stevie?
I never tweeted. I never tweeted.
Never tweeted what?
You said we would get to your tweets.
No, you people in general, the people who tweeted.
Well, say that then.
Where was best of the week this week?
No best of the week.
Where's best of the week? I had a pop it. Where is it?
The person who does it is in LA.
We'll do it from LA.
I don't know what he's doing.
I'll tell you what he's doing.
Time
I know what he's doing. He's hanging about with Brett Sauce, Gomez, Moreno. Who else is down there?
Shaq's there.
What's he doing there?
I don't know
What's his lot there? He's just been in Trinidad doing a commercial. Now he's in LA.
Yeah, there you go.
And where's the producer doing the best of the week?
He's in LA.
Slacking. 1 week it's on, 1 week it's off. Does what he wants.
Is now a good
Go and do Max's podcast.
Is now a good time for Ronaldo to consider a move to MLS? What do you think?
I don't know. Not yet.
It's a bit of a fall from grace when you get the Ballon d'Or for the best player on the planet, and then 6 months later you go to MLS. No.
No?
No.
If Christian Pulisic joins Liverpool this summer, would he be in the starting lineup from day one? Do you think he'll actually be at Liverpool or Man United?
So you're asking the man that said Salah might not be in the starting 11?
Well,
you're asking the man whether Pulisic would be in the starting 11?
He wouldn't be at the moment, would he?
No.
Is that fair point?
Which wouldn't be good for him. I think he's better off where he is right now.
Yep.
Get playing at least another season and a half underneath his belt, and then maybe start thinking about going to a bigger and better team.
Finally, has Neymar overtaken Ronaldo as the world's second best player? I think a number of people have overtaken Ronaldo, haven't they?
At the moment.
Yeah.
Well, Ronaldo's just not playing well, so there's, as you say, he's having a bad time. That's not to say in the second half of the season, him and Real Madrid won't sort it out.
Oof. What chance do you think that's going to
Why do you have to pull a face like that?
Hold on, I'll do it again. What do you think the chances of that are?
Oh, he's done it before. End of an era.
End of an era.
It is end of an era.
Yeah, the end of an era.
Well, Zidane's going to go, isn't he? That's it.
Yeah.
That's the era ended.
He'll come good against PSG.
You think so?
No, I just thought I'd say that. Saves it for the big occasions, that man. Come on, don't write him off.
Ah, that's good. That's it.
Don't write him off.
Right. Give when the Champions League comes back. Just a reminder, ESPN SC has got its special show. We're live from LA on Sunday. You can join us at 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN News. You got Matic has gone, obviously Costa as well. But apart from that, it's pretty much the same squad that won.
You know the sides that win week in and week out is because the manager is on them and doesn't let them slack. Now, Conte, to me, I mean, getting involved with Coutinho tells
Mourinho.
you... sorry, Mourinho.
He's got him on the brain.
He could have been doing with Coutinho.
Tells you he's taking his eye off the ball. And as I said, you know, stories like the Crouch, which I think is absolute rubbish, that doesn't happen unless the manager has not got his finger on the pulse.
But it's not as if Conte has addressed the media in the last couple of months and said, I want to stay here for a long time. He's admitted that he might go in the end of the summer. So surely you don't need to push him out the door. It looks like he's going there anyway.
Well, I know, and that's what it looks like. It looks like they are trying to push him out the door. When, as you say, even in the title-winning season, last year when they were flying, he was like, well, you know, could do with going back to Italy.
Yeah.
I don't get it with some of these. You know, the commitment is just... for me, he's not there. It's so short-termism, it's scary. But let me tell you, Michael Emenalo's not there anymore, who was conducting a lot of these transfers. When Conte sits down on a Monday or whatever day it is and says, right, what we got lined up, and somebody said Andy Carroll and Peter Crouch, he should pack his bags and walk out the door at that moment. The other side of the coin is people saying, well, he wants a plan B. Here's the deal. Morata's not playing great, right? But Morata is actually a big, old-fashioned centre forward.
Yeah.
He's well over 6 foot, he's powerful, he's quick. I know he falls down a lot, but he is a big man up front. So it's not as if they haven't got a big man. They've already got one. It's quality they're lacking.
Transfer window is open, but this is about an extension to a contract. Fernandinho signing with City until 2020. That's a good deal for them, for him, for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely, and he deserves it. As great as City are going forward, every team that does attack as much as they do needs some sort of player to fill the holes in behind. And there's nobody in European football right now, in my opinion, doing it as well as Fernandinho's doing it.
Yeah, he's already got a couple of goals, as you can see, in just 23 appearances. So he is getting forward a little bit more as well. But he's not quite the conductor of the orchestra. That's further forward. That's your David Silva or whatever. But this is a position that has it always been as important when you played? Remember Paul Lambert at Dortmund? Before that, did you guys have a defensive midfielder at Liverpool?
Listen, the game has changed now because there are not that many great defenders around today. Let's be perfectly honest. And so that means that a defensive midfielder now has become a specialist position. It was never a specialist position, in my opinion, 20 years ago, but it has to be today. And that position is all about, as I said before, covering holes. You know, when your team loses the ball, you're either there to organise or to win the ball back, and nobody does it better right now than Fernandinho.
He's 32 now, and this is a deal till the summer of 2020. It'll take him up to his 35th birthday. Pep Guardiola said he's one of the 3 best defensive midfielders in world football. Do you agree with him? I
was trying to figure out right now who's better than him. I would have him.
Or who the other 2 would be.
Well, listen, right now you've got the likes of N'Golo Kante, Verratti, Casemiro at Real Madrid. Right now I would have him over any of those guys. So I think Pep's right. I think Pep also has to be wary, though. You know, a guy who turns 33 in May is on the cusp of his legs going a little bit. And when you're doing the job that Fernandinho's doing, you have to be able to get around the field. Yep. And if your legs start going, then obviously you're not going to be as effective. So I think it would be a good idea for Pep to get a little bit of cover right now so that he can give him a break.
So don't be surprised if Manchester City add a defensive midfielder, despite having just extended the contract of the best one. One name, one good player, notable in his absence in the transfer speculation this January, is Paulo Dybala of Juventus. Has his stock fallen over the last 12 months, would you say, Stevie?
I think so. I think going into last year's Champions League final, everybody was looking at this guy as the next Messi or the next Ronaldo. For me, since then, listen, he's a good player, but he hasn't kicked on the way certainly I thought he would. He still scores goals, but there's a little bit of indiscipline creeping into his game, not only on the field, but off the field. And at 24 years old, you know, Messi and Ronaldo, for example, we knew these are the next complete and utter superstars. This guy has fallen off his perch a little bit, and the question he has to ask himself is, how do I get back on the right track? Is it by staying at Juventus and having them cater to him, or does he go somewhere else, likes of a Real Madrid, who right now really need a spark?
So what's the answer of those two options?
Personally, I think he would be better going. I don't see how he can get that flame back at Juventus. And of course, they're coming out and saying, listen, we don't get rid of players, we only get rid of them if they want to go. I think this guy will want to go, and I think Real Madrid will be the place that he ends up.
You had spells in your career where you maybe went through a dip in form. Other teammates did the same. Don't lie to me. He's got 14 goals in 14 starts. That's not bad. And
it's great.
Well, it is. Yet you say his stock has fallen. That's the level we're dealing at here, isn't it?
Well, we're talking about a guy who we think can carry a team on his back.
True.
And yes, he has those goals, which again, listen, don't get me wrong, this guy's a great player. But he hasn't been doing anything else through the course of 90 minutes. And that's not what we expect of him. He has to do more. He has the ability to do more. But the problem is I think, is what's going on between his ears. If he can sort that out, then he can step up again. But as I said, I think the best thing for him is to go to Real Madrid.
Just finally, we've done a transfer rater for ESPN FC about the future of Ronaldo as well. He's playing for a big club, Dybala, so if he was to go to Real Madrid, that wouldn't bother him, would it? Do you think he would thrive playing for one of the best teams in the world?
I think sometimes when you've been at a place for a certain amount of time, and each individual's different, then you can become a little stale and a little bit comfortable. I think maybe he's a little comfortable at Juventus right now, and going to a giant in Real Madrid, I think, would spark him into action.
Not going to happen in January, but watch this space. And by the way, he's not playing too badly. 14 league goals and 14 starts. It's not bad for someone whose stock is apparently falling. Be honest, Stevie Nicol, when you first heard that Peter Crouch was linked with Chelsea, what were you thinking?
I mean, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a wind-up. But I think the more you look at it, it kind of tells you the state that Chelsea are in right now. No Michael Emenalo, the guy who's been in charge of all the transfers over the last decade. A coach in Conte, who nobody knows whether he's coming, going, staying, leaving, what's going on. And so then all this sort of speculation is what happens when there's so much turmoil at a club. I just couldn't believe it.
Frank Lampard, here's a quote from him, the former Chelsea midfielder. Something doesn't feel right at Chelsea. You understand why he said that?
Chelsea, in my opinion, this season were fine up until Conte started making noises about whether he was leaving or not. And when the guy right at the top starts talking about going somewhere else, that affects everybody at the club. And more importantly, it affects the players on the field. And I don't think there's any surprise that if you look at when all this nonsense started to the form ever since, right till now, of the Chelsea players, it's been in turmoil.
Andy Carroll was linked, he's now injured. Peter Crouch was linked. Now Edin Dzeko is being linked. They're all similar type players. Does that surprise you?
The Dzeko one doesn't surprise me.
No, not at all.
No, but the Crouch and the Andy Carroll is incredible. I find it incredible. You know, this is a team who steamrolled the Premier League last season, and who at the start of this year were thinking, okay, who's going to catch them in the Premier League, and can they make a real challenge at the Champions League? I don't see either of those things yet. Even though they're still in the Champions League, I don't see either of those things possible.
Most of the time this season when Morata hasn't played, Eden Hazard's played there, not Batshuayi. If you're Batshuayi, what are you thinking right now?
I think if you're Batshuayi, you know that your time's pretty much up. If this guy's in charge.
But has he even been given a chance? He started the first game of the season.
He started the first game of the season, but let's be honest, every time he stepped on the field, he hasn't looked up to the task. His touch hasn't been particularly brilliant.
If you're not getting a run
His
of games,
movement
that can't
hasn't
be
been.
easy.
No, it's not. But sometimes you have to make the best of what you're given. And I think as long as Conte's at Chelsea, Batshuayi is not going to be on the field.
It's amazing the difference in 12 months. Chelsea champions last season, but not this season. Well, even when you're one of the richest clubs in the world, you're still linked with players. Paris Saint-Germain may or may not be doing business in the January transfer window. I want to chat now with our ESPN FC PSG correspondent, Jonathan Johnson, about some of the comments, Jonathan, that Unai Emery, the coach, has made over the last 48 hours, including the areas that he believes need strengthened in his team. Tell us more, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, the big and obvious need for Unai Emery, and he said it himself in that press conference, is in defensive midfield. When Thiago Motta is fit, he's an undisputed member of the starting 11 in that deep-lying role. But how often is he fit? That's been such a problem for PSG over the last couple of years, particularly this season and in the last couple of months. He's had a bit of surgery done in order to clean up his knee, and it's something that PSG are going to have to monitor going ahead. Now, Antero Henrique, PSG's sporting director, has said that Wendell, who is the leading candidate for PSG long-term to come in and replace Motta in that deep-lying role, is not going to come in January. It's possible that he does get signed up by the club for next summer, but he won't come into the squad come the winter transfer window, which means that PSG are going to go forward at least until the end of the season with what they have. Now, that is obviously interesting as far as Motta goes, because it makes his recovery from that knee injury ahead of the Champions League matches against Real Madrid of particular importance, because PSG's plans in the Champions League could essentially rest on how fit Thiago Motta is come February.
The defensive midfield area that you mentioned, what about some of the targets that are being linked with PSG?
It certainly seems like PSG have set their sights on Wendell, the Fluminense midfielder, and I don't think PSG are considering too many other options. I mean, you've got to think as well, if PSG were to make a move in the January transfer window, if they really pushed to that point, say Motta has another relapse and his knee gives him problems again, and it's obvious he's not going to be fit in time for the Champions League clashes with Real Madrid, PSG would have to consider somebody who's capable of playing in that deep-lying role, a role that is naturally their own, which is not the case for somebody like Adrien Rabiot, who's already in the PSG squad. Same with Giovanni Lo Celso, Marco Verratti as well. All players who have been tried there and have not really convinced. Rabiot, the best of the bunch, but still prefers to play a bit further forward. So you'd be thinking somebody who can play that role naturally, but also is not cup-tied crucially for the Champions League. And off the top of my head, the only player I could think of would be, say, Inter Milan's João Mario. But then the obvious question rises again: how do PSG finance that while they're trying to make up a deficit in terms of financial fair play ahead of next summer? And it's not an easy task being Antero Henrique planning PSG's future transfer moves right now, because there's so many different moving parts, and that's why I think PSG will focus first and foremost on trying to sell players before they bring anybody in, and that's why we'll probably not see too much business from them in January, and there'll be more movement come next summer.
So a lot to talk about involving PSG. We've got Neymar, we've got the Ronaldo stories about him maybe teaming up with Neymar at Real Madrid. We've got the potential arrivals of new players in January, and we also have a question mark about the future of the coach. It's all happening. Thank you to Jonathan for his input. All the latest news on PSG can always be found right here, 24/7 at espnfc.com. I did something yesterday I don't normally do. I checked the calendar just to ensure it wasn't the 1st of April, when Peter Crouch to Chelsea was mentioned as a rumour.
I know what was going.
I'll leave this to Stevie Nicol. I'll not even ask you a question. You can.
How about that? Take that. I'm not even going to say anything.
You've broken.
I've never heard anything so ridiculous in all my life.
You've broken the touchscreen.
Good.
So thank you. You're not having it
No.
at all.
What makes you think that?
It's $2,000 for a new TV, by the way. You okay with that? You are. Ronaldo to we're going from this to this.
I know.
Ronaldo to leave Real Madrid this summer, maybe to replace Peter Crouch at Stoke.
Yeah. I don't think he will be moving, just purely and simply because of the wages he's on. He still has plenty of years left on his contract. I don't think anybody else can really afford them, and quite frankly, he's in the worst form of his life. So why would you take somebody who right now doesn't look like he can hit a barn door from 5 yards and pay him an absolute king's ransom? So I think this is a miss. I think he's going nowhere.
Maybe.
I think they would like him to, though.
What, go to Stoke? Emre Can. Now, Pep Guardiola came out this week when Fernandinho signed a new deal and said that Fernandinho was one of the 3 best defensive midfielders in world football. Do they need Emre Can?
I think they do, because Fernandinho is, 33 coming up?
He's just signed a deal to 2020.
Yeah, but when you get to that age, you don't know when your legs are going to disappear.
Speaking from experience.
Speaking from experience, all of a sudden you can't get there. That extra yard is harder work. You're not quite as physically strong as you were. All kinds of things start happening to your body when you start getting up to that 33. So, for me, this would be a smart move.
Okay.
Chan's 24.
You don't want to lose him at Liverpool, though.
Well, he's gone. He's out of contract.
I know.
I actually think he's going to go to Juventus.
Okay.
And probably from his perspective, if he does go to Juventus, he plays more than he does if he goes to Man City. So I'm going to say this will not happen.
It's another one for me.
For that particular reason, yeah.
Olivier Giroud is not a regular at Arsenal. Would he go to Dortmund?
It would be a smart move. Let me think. I will swap the Europa League for the Champions League. How about that? Because that's what will happen if this guy goes to Dortmund. Dortmund are going to get in the Champions League spots for next season. So it makes no sense from where I'm sitting why Giroud wouldn't go to Dortmund. I think this is a hit. Absolutely.
Finally. Now, Edin Dzeko. If they can't get Crouch, Andy Carroll's injured. Dzeko, he's a good player. Chelsea?
I'm going to say this is a hit.
Okay.
Because Roma, they don't over worry about replacing players. They got they sold Salah to Liverpool last year for £30 million.
They just get on with it.
And they get on with it. And for Dzeko at 31, again, he's coming into that range of, when do your legs start going. So I think this would be a good move for Dzeko, get back in the Premier League. Clearly, Morata would be the number 1, but Dzeko would get plenty of time on the field. And at 31 years of age, it's not the worst thing to happen to you to be able to get some rest. So
Okay.
I think this will happen because Roma do accept offers for the players.
They do.
And I think Dzeko would like it. I'm going to say this is a hit.
Let's sum this up. He's due $2,000 for a new touchscreen TV, which is now on its last legs. Peter Crouch has been linked with Chelsea. And Ronaldo, he might not be leaving Real Madrid to go to Stoke, but he could still be on his way. Bye for now.